typical day in my life is filled with madness and unforeseen challenges. It's very chaotic in my day-to-day. Hello, my name is Michael Kaminsky.
Michelle Flax.
Elias, Nick Heffley.
And I've always wanted to be a beekeeper. I wish I would have started doing this 40 years ago. It is the exact opposite of my everyday because it's calming and relaxing, and it gives me a chance to slow down. Hello, ladies. Yeah, you know, 40 years ago, I didn't become a beekeeper because I just didn't have enough knowledge. I didn't know that you could keep bees in an urban setting. I thought you always had to live out on a farm. I just wasn't aware of it until I started looking into it. I think it's fascinating. You know, New York is referred to as a concrete jungle, and you wouldn't expect there to be a lot of places to see bees or find bees. But once you know what to look for, you start to see them all over the place.
There's actually a lot more bees in the city than one might think, which is really, really cool. I definitely feel like nature and just the modern aspect of living in a city coexist actually pretty well. There are a lot of small community gardens in Manhattan. There definitely are a lot of ways to be in nature and be outside. There's opportunities to actually get involved, to grow local produce, to compost, to work with chickens and, you know, get food directly from the source.
The benefits of beekeeping in the city are many. One of the most important ones that I really value is the ability to give people a touch point to nature.
It teaches young folks that they can contribute, that they can be part of the cycle, that they can be part of giving back.
I was a really big nerd when I was a child, and I was annoying my parents with all this stuff about bees and saving the environment and stuff. And my mom was like, you should just join a class because you're boring us here.
I love honey. Like, I'm obsessed with honey, and I've always been really interested in the process. I think that with food in general, a lot of people are very disconnected from how food comes from the source to our plate.
Honeybees are a very interesting and exciting thing for people to get to experience, get to watch, to know that the honey came from the city that they're eating. It's the same kind of magic as when you are, you know, growing your own vegetables in your garden. I've been a beekeeper for about 8 years now, and I absolutely love being a beekeeper. Generally, a day of beekeeping for me involves getting to one or multiple of my sites. I get suited up in my jacket with my veil, and I go in and start checking on the hives. The bee season really starts in March for all of our overwintered hives. This is my time to kind of go through and figure out what's good, what I need to swap out. Some of the frames still have some good honey in them for the bees, so that'll be good lunch for the new bees that are coming. So bees propolis the inside of the boxes, and all that means is that they make this substance we call propolis, and they put it in between all the little nooks and crannies in the hive. And it's a good thing because it's a way that they stay healthy. It's antiviral, antibacterial, and antifungal. But the problem is that for the beekeeper, it all sticks everything together really tight. I don't want to get rid of all of it, but I got to get rid of some of it so I can get in and be able to move frames around. This colony survived the winter, so we call it overwintered. At this point in the spring, they're busy building up, and we don't necessarily want them to build up too fast or too quickly, so we split the colony to make more colonies. Basically, what we're doing today is called swarm management. I'm just looking at the bottom here, and I'm looking for queen cells or queen cups, just like these hanging down. I'm going to check to see if there's anything in them. So this is the typical behavior with of the bees. In the springtime, they want to multiply, and they multiply by swarming. And part of swarming is creating new queens for the original colony, and then the old queen and the swarm leave to find a new home. We're trying to make sure that the bees don't swarm, because in the city it's very difficult to keep bees if they're always swarming on you. And then the other thing is that from a public relations standpoint, it's very difficult to not freak people out about bees when there's swarms happening. So we try to keep them at a minimum. And the way we do that is we give them extra space. So if they feel like they have plenty of space, the impulse to swarm generally goes away. Not always, but. This is definitely the main nest in this box. And we see definitely a lot more. There's a cell. There's a cell. And actually, these aren't really cells right now. So I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 so far. These are really just what we call queen cups until we see something inside. All the hives are a little bit different when they're going into winter, so their size matters, their virus load matters, all this different stuff. There's lots of variables and everything. I'll start looking and seeing if we have any survivors from the winter. Yeah, I think we might have a total loss at this site. Yep, that's it, unfortunately. Yeah. So that is a bummer for this site, for sure. We did have a rough year last year, so this isn't completely unexpected, but I did hope to have a few of these hives hang in there. In April, we'll get all of our new bees, so unfortunately we have some losses each year, and we have to replace those bees.
Today was the first day that we put the bees into the hives. We installed them. And it was crazy, honestly. It was definitely one of the crazier things that I've ever done, just because you have this inherent fear of insects and things flying around, and you're kind of subconsciously always wanting to avoid them, but going ahead in and just like holding a box of bees in your hands while they buzz around is just like an insane feeling. I remember the moment where Nick told us that we had to put our fingers into the bees to get the can out, and that was the moment for me that it felt like I was about to go like down a roller coaster. I was really like, oh, I have to put my hand in live bees. For me, it was definitely a fear to get over, to work with insects that you know could sting you and potentially you could have an allergic reaction or whatever, but it was exciting, definitely a lot of adrenaline as you're doing it, and I'm excited to do more.
The impact that we're having by raising bees in an urban environment is twofold. It's all about knowledge, and it's all about enriching what people know about nature. When I see young children come on the Hive tours here, they come in and they're very fearful of the bees when the tour first starts off. But by the end, they're holding bees, they're picking them off each other's jackets. So it's that knowledge that takes away that fear. I also feel like it's a great way to give back, to make sure that the pollination continues, that cycle continues, to give nature back to that.
We share a lot in common with the bees. They live in large groups. They're very social animals, just like we are. We live in these big cities. And even if you don't live in a big city, even if you're in a small town, generally people are living closer together and they're helping each other.
It's hard not to draw parallels between human society and the hives. You know, the drones are a good example. The male bees, they just really exist to eat, drink, and have sex with the queen, and then they die. They don't really contribute to the hive at all. The women do all the work. So I will draw that parallel to the real world.
Oh my gosh. There are countless ways that a beehive resembles a city, in particular Manhattan. Even just the visual today, for example, the bees flying everywhere and just crossing paths over one another. It felt like a New York City subway, honestly. Just like people on their way, doing what they have to do, their specific goals in mind.
They can communicate with each other using dancing. We as humans have problems communicating with each other, and I feel like bees are an example of a species who manage to communicate pretty well with each other.
New York is really diverse, but I think we would be better off if we kind of thought of ourselves as one common entity and we work together to help each other out instead of, you know, differentiating each other and pitting each other against one another. You know, bees are better in that regard.
There's something happening throughout the whole year. June is our main nectar flow. July and August is when they're ripening that nectar into honey, and then we're eventually harvesting that nectar or that honey in August. Once we get to September, we're working with the bees to make sure that they are nice and healthy to go into the winter. So beekeeping isn't necessarily for everyone, but if you do want to do something about the environment, there's some really easy steps that you can do that actually do have an impact on our environment.
Most environmentalists are people who actually care. I think caring is a very important part.
It doesn't always have to be a big grandiose act. There are plenty of volunteers in this community garden that I see that come here once a week. And there are folks that contribute time wherever they can. And I think that's what it's all about. I think it's about being happy and being content with knowing what you can give back and knowing that that's enough as long as you do a little bit of it.
I think we can learn a lot from the way that bees behave in terms of, you know, having a society and the idea that we're all working together toward a common goal. But yeah, bees are amazing. Everything they do is cool.
Ooh.